Happy Saturday, everybody. I am Nick Slavic. I am the proprietor of the Nick Slavic Painting and Restoration Company. I'm also the host of this show, Ask a Painter Live. It's a weekly live Facebook show where I use my almost 3 decades of experience as a master craftsperson and a paint business entrepreneur to basically highlight the life of a craftsperson and paint business owner, and then answer any questions. And I have a brief introduction here. I got to go through a few bits of business, but boy, if you ever wanted to get nerdy about paintbrushes today, me and Peter are going to go deep into this. Peter Samuel is my guest. He's from Pioneer Brush. I'm sure you guys have been seeing a whole bunch of postings and stuff on social media about Pioneer Brush. And we are going to go deep about Peter's history, Pioneer Brush, the history of brushes, brush making, the science, the technology, and everything else. But first, I should mention the Painting Contractors Association, the PCA. So I know those of you who have been watching social media have seen our expo, our big exposition, where 600 people got together, the finest paint business owners, master craftspeople from around the country. And it's a life-giving event. It really fills up all our tanks, gives us a lot of energy. And of course, you get to meet people who are doing this with you and share a bunch of best practices. And it was a lot of fun. So if you want to connect with more people like Peter, like me, thoughtful people in the industry who want to see the industry progress, this is where you're going to find it, the PCA. So I am not going to belabor this any longer. My guest, Peter Samuel, here from Pioneer Brush. I want to get to know, I think you guys need to get to know Peter a little bit better. I've been getting to know him over the last couple of months, and boy, we are a couple of painting and brush nerds, Peter.
All right.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's go deep into Pioneer Brush.
Okay. Well, Pioneer Brush we're a private company. We're a brush maker, obviously. We're owned by 3 partners who've all been in this business for, like you said yourself, for 30 years. And you know, we have facilities in the UK and we have facilities in China. That's basically it. We've been in operation since 2008, but our roots go back much further than that, back to the 1930s. In fact, you know, where my grandfather's cousin, I think it is anyway, he was a refugee from Germany just before the war, so he escaped from the Nazis, and he set up a business in London. He was a crystal trader himself, so he goes back further. But he merged with another refugee, and they made a company called Banco Meyer, which became, you know, one of the largest crystal trading companies in the world, and doing horsehair and pig bristle and cattle and fine hair for artist projects and cosmetic. They had their own processing plant as well. I joined that company in 1985, and you know, things evolve. So you know, as the world gets smaller, trading becomes difficult. Therefore, you know, we started to go into finished products, not just the commodity. And in 1996, we started our own manufacturing. And as I said, you know, things changed. So in 2008, the divisions of the company went in their own direction, and I took my team, my 2 partners came with me, and we started. That's how we got to Pioneer. We produce paintbrushes of all sorts of quality, but basically we like to focus on trade. We produce 18 million brushes a year, which get exported to about 20, just over 20 different countries. So we're operational all across the EU, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, all sorts of places. The one place we didn't go is the USA. And, and the reason was we didn't really have the right connections. But as of 2018, we decided to go, but we wanted to do something different. So instead of selling to retail or distribution, we decided to see if we could sell direct to the end user. And I mean in that meant that the craftsman, the contractor, you know, not the DIY. We wanted to focus on the product. So we set up this e-commerce site, and it's been good. It could be better. But it's been good, and it's been really nice working and meeting people through the APC and the PCA, and you know, and having good conversations. So yeah, we hope it grows. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you found the right group of people who are constantly looking to improve their processes, improve their people processes, their businesses, and things like that. And yeah, I was delighted because there's lots of places you can buy brushes, but sharing a deep history, deep history of not just brushes, but back to bristle training and all that other stuff. Like that is something that a lot of people do not possess. So the richness of knowledge that you and your team have is just amazing. I mean, the history of brushes as we know it is somehow contained in some part, probably between all of your brains. And it is such a cool thing. And I'm sure it informs what you guys do now.
I hope so. But yes, I mean, we have been involved in all sorts of aspects of the trade, from the bristle to the handles, to the machinery to make brushes, also to make ferrules, processing of handles, and all sorts of aspects of this. So I'd like to think, yes, we do. We may not be experts on many things, but maybe this is the one thing that we do know something about.
Yeah. So,
and I just wanted to say, when you're talking about, talking like-minded with people who are, in the trade at your end and the manufacturing end and the end user end. One thing that does strike me when I talk to contractors in the UK, across Europe, is the passion that goes into, the way that people feel about the products that they use. It's really quite amazing.
No, and I will say that, obviously you've locked into a very passionate crowd here in the United States, but my impression has always been, there are a couple of English transplants, master craftspeople like myself in the United States. One, Chris Mole, who lives in northern Minnesota, was actually here, and he got his, he did his apprenticeship in England working on the old stone buildings, the castles, things like that. And when I talk to him and guys like Joe Finch from Detroit, they talk about this culture of craftsmanship in England, almost to the point where, we do a lot of spraying work here. And we think that is a very, sort of very specific thing, a higher end finish. It feels like in England, the culture of craftsperson is the highest realization of a craftsperson is that brushwork, that old school brushwork like that, even more so than the United States. Is that something you've witnessed as well, Peter?
Yes, for sure. The ones we have our own association here called the PDA, the Painting and Decorating Association, and yes, they will tell you exactly what I just told you. That people are passionate about this sort, this about the brushes that they use, and it's especially the brushes. And as you can see from the website, we've got, and I can see in front of you now, there's quite a big array of different types of brushes. And some of them are very, very old. I'm not sure if I can see it anymore. It was like a wall brush. I think that's the one. Yeah.
God, this is so. One of the last things we'll do here, Peter, is I'm going to give a demo. I'm going to go through some of this stuff, but immediately what intrigued me about you guys is I started seeing some very interesting historic sort of things there, and this isn't something that just people stumble upon. Like, you have to have a deep knowledge of the history of our craft of brushes to even start dabbling in this stuff. So instantly, when I saw some of these things on your website, it just it triggered that lightning in me, that old craftsperson itch.
The one you picked up, we should call it four. No, sorry, the other one, the four.
Oh, sorry, the duster. Yep.
Pouring duster. I mean, I think we've got a blog on our website about the history of paintbrushes. But if you go back in time, that's how most paintbrushes look. That's how they look. You would get a knot of filament, usually pig hair, and then you would tie a string around it, and then you put it into pitch, and then you would make a knot, and then you put that knot into a stock, and that's how you made it. That's how they made brushes for hundreds of years until somebody invented the ferrule and rubber.
So this is so interesting to me because I have a huge library of old historic books, from guild books and apprenticeship books and just old stuff, late 1800s, early 1900s. And when I was going through the website, I saw this. That triggered 1,000 memories of reading those books. It's like I have not seen, and I've never seen a real historic brush like this. Like, I've seen them in all the books. I've never actually come across one in my real life. So when I came across one on your website, it was like, Oh, this guy likes paintbrushes, and he knows history to paintbrushes. This is amazing. So yeah, it triggered a lot of great sort of images of those old books for me. So
and the other brush, the big one, the wall brush that you get, I mean, that is originally that was a distemper brush. Very, very light coverings, but before the paint roller, that's what you used, and that
yeah.
would have been back in the day. That would have been natural pig hair. That would be 6-inch pig hair from a pig that had, lived long enough to grow that length of hair. That was
and
how they used to do it.
And Peter, nowadays are the dusters and the wall brushes, are these still natural bristle brushes for you guys?
It's very difficult to get that sort of length of bristle nowadays. In the old days, before modern breeding practices, took over in places like Russia and China, because more bristle used to come from places like Russia, China, India, and even some in Europe as well. But the pigs don't live long enough to compare it. So in general, pig hair has become very difficult to use. It's much lighter as well, because if it doesn't grow so long, it doesn't get as thick, and therefore you don't have the bend recovery on it. So synthetics have just taken over, and today's synthetics are absolutely right for modern paints too. With modern paints in general, have more acrylics in them. You need to work faster with them, and they need to be stiffer. So yes, it's unfortunately the natural bristle it's still around. People still use it, but a vast majority is synthetic and some mixture. But most is synthetic.
That makes sense. And you guys did a great job of mimicking the look of the old natural bristle, the difference between like the khaki colored and the black and things like that. And that is a beautiful thing. I like that.
You'd say so.
When people you say natural bristle brushes are still around, and I dabble in them every once in a while. What animal do they get the natural bristles from nowadays?
Well, it still comes from pigs. I mean,
Yeah.
When I say it's very difficult to find longer lengths, but that doesn't mean it's impossible to find longer lengths. And I do, if I'm right, I do think that there are natural bristle brushes still around from maybe Corona. I think Corona still makes. The last time I was in the States. But I think that in general, it's a mix.
Okay. And historically, why did they pick pigs and hogs for that? I mean, there's lots of animals with fur.
Well, mostly because of the bend recovery on it. Because of the pig has the hair. Well, first of all, the hair has a root at one end. That root is very good if you want to put it into glue. The glue goes around the root, so it acts as an anchor. And then, of course, it has a natural sort of wave to it as it goes up the filament, and that helps with the paint loading. And then, most important of all, in my opinion, you have at the end of it, you have a split, we call a flag, and that helps run the paint to a very, very fine point. You get a much smooth finish to it. So, yes, pig hair was absolutely ideal.
So, and again, I don't know the science of it. You definitely do. I was always told that natural bristles are hollow, and that's why with solvents and things like that, it actually holds a little more, and that's why it doesn't spit or drip or as much as like a synthetic. Is that a true thing that I know?
Yeah, that's true. It's natural hair, so it will absorb. It's not hollow, but it will absorb much
okay.
than a synthetic. For sure. So your paint loading on a natural bristle brush is much superior normally. But then, of course, there are synthetics, and we use those in our own filaments, in our mixture, that can mimic those properties. So when you extrude a filament, you can extrude it in different shapes. So you can have like a star formation. So you extrude it as a star, and then you have all those filaments next to each other in the brush head. The paint will lie between it, and that will hold much more. So you can do things to mimic that paint holding.
Oh, I love that. So we should probably talk about what makes a good paintbrush, Peter.
Yeah, I was going to say, you ask 20 painters, you get probably 20 different answers. I don't know. In my opinion, I mean, it depends certainly on the type of surface you're painting, and on the paint that you're using. So you'll see on the website we have softer brushes and stiffer brushes, and that's to correspond with the different types of the thinner and thicker paints that we use. And then we'll have a masonry category for stronger filaments that have less flag in them, so you can use them on stone and they don't break and wear down so quickly. But overall, in general, I think a good paintbrush needs to pick up a good amount of paint, first of all. It needs to release it reasonably steadily rather than just dump it on the surface. And then the last bit really is that the end of it should have that flag, give you a nice smooth finish. It doesn't give you any tran lines, painting. That's my opinion, and that's what we've produced our brushes to try and do those things.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like you said, you're going to get 100 different opinions. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of personal preference in how soft, how stiff, but as paints change, and especially with the modern paints, when you get into acrylics, latex, and now even some of the low VOC paints, they're getting stiff and stiff and stiff and stiff. And you can like the brushes you like, but you're going to need to correspondingly have a stiffer and stiffer brush to work with some of these things, because the smaller, more delicate brushes just kind of can't handle some of the more robust paints nowadays, it feels like.
I totally agree. And I've noticed over the years in the USA, the bristles and curlies especially, they're getting stiffer. They say it on the packaging, and that's, I think, it's because of the paint change itself. They're moving along with the times and moving away from the nylons that they use. People are using more polyesters. You can get soft polyesters that mimic nylon, which is what we use. But I see basically becoming less used, maybe. That's my opinion, I think.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because you can, all stiff brushes aren't created equal. There are very inexpensive, almost throwaway stiff brushes where it feels like it's just stiff from the ferrule to the end. And there's really, it's just a fiber like this. But then I would consider, and again, this is me being a brush novice, but having used one for a lot of years, there's a sophisticated version of a stiff brush where it's stiff in the right places. It's soft towards the end, so it can actually fill in the grain and things. It does pick up a lot of paint, but it almost feels like there's progression where it's nice and stiff up at the top, and the end has a little more flex in it. And it's not just a stiffer brush; just doesn't mean like everything is more stiff. It feels like there's a sophistication to some of these brushes.
Yeah, absolutely. If you brush, so basically, brushes need to have different lengths of filament. If the brush that you're describing, I think, is one of those single length level filaments. It's completely straight, so there's no taper on it. So there's no way that the paint can come down slowly. It just dumps at the end and just falls off and dumps. Also, because there's nothing on the filament itself to hold the paint. There's no crimp in it, no undulation, no extras to hold it in there. But when you make a good brush, you've got to have different lengths of filament. So when we make the filament, we extrude it on an extrusion machine. It goes through a mold, so it'll make the profile, it'll make the diameter, so you can choose how stiff you want to make that filament. Pull that filament through processing, and it comes off the other end as a hank. And then you cut the hank, and you can get a hank like that, and then you cut it straight, and then you've just got one length. So the way to make a good brush is you do one straight cut and you do one angle cut, and then you mix it so you get like this tapered effect.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's so cool, Peter. I've never had it explained like that, but that is perfect. That explains a lot. When you actually look at a brush, not all the bristles come right to the tip, the farthest end. You can see them progressively, sort of like a mix, and it's not just like a shear cut this way at an angle. It's like it is a mix staggered all kind of over the place. That is really, I've never had it explained that way before. That's really cool.
I mean, that's how we make brushes. There is another way, which is that straight cut, and then you can mix different lengths, so you get like a step formation. You can see that some of the sort of DIY models. You can see that sort of there's like one length, and then there's another length. You know,
that's cool.
Something similar, but not quite as well.
So again, I am over the moon about what you guys do, because you have what I would call the weird stuff. You do have the crazy wall brushes. And I only have examples of these that are historic brushes, and I hang them in my office because they are so cool and they are old, and they do have hog, horse, some other natural filament in it, and they are absolutely amazing. And I don't know how they survive, but you guys manufacture these and sell these. What is the main use of something like this in the modern day?
Well, I think it's still distemper. I mean, they are to be fair, they're not our biggest seller. You know,
I would imagine, yeah.
I mean, sell a lot more rollers than wall brushes. But there is still a demand, and you know, it's still hanging on in there with some of the very old school painters who would rather use a brush than a roller. But it's not.
Yeah, every bone in my body. The logo for my business, Nick Slavic Painting and Restoration, is actually a image I found in a probably 1860s, 1870s book about our trade, and it's literally a guy with the white jacket buttoned all the way down with the white hat, holding up a 6-inch wall brush, just like the logo for my company. So I am so tempted to get out a big galvanized bucket full of paint and paint a room just like they used to, like that. I've never done it. I've been this for 30 years, and it's tempting to get out there and do it.
it's good bodybuilding, I think, that one.
Yeah, right. And Peter, when you think about, you know, the logo of the guy when I took it for my business, you would imagine they probably did some of that stuff in the teens, the 20s, and the 30s with oil and lead paint too. And you know, when I go to flea markets and garage sales, once in a while you come across one of those old buckets of lead paint that's been sealed, and there it is, literally a weight. It is a lead weight. I can't imagine how heavy this was.
I think it must have been really quite affecting their health to have to use lead-based paint. I mean, you know, on a daily basis. I mean, but they didn't know any better back then. So
no. So the other fun stuff that I saw are, most people would refer to this as the hockey stick brush, but I've always known it as a radiator brush, and I think that's what you guys call it as well too. Yes,
it's a radiator brush. Yeah. And I mean, they're very, very popular across the EU. It's really a design that started there, and the idea is it is exactly what it says it is. The idea is you can paint behind the back of the radiator with it. I mean.
Yeah, I love that, because it's so, I mean, when I started with my father, he still had piles of these wood ones, natural bristle brushes like that. And honestly, we don't run across that many radiators. We do historic restoration, so we'll run across some once in a while. But honestly, this may be blasphemy or it might be crafty, I don't know. But when we used to paint barns, he used to have one that was sometimes 2 or 3 feet long. I would go and get the peaks of the barns when I'd be on the extension ladder with one of those. I thought, this is one of the most handy brushes for that sort of thing. So I go back to when I was a kid, 10 to 15 years old, using these things on barns.
That's exactly it. It's called a radiator brush, but actually it's also sold as a nook and cranny brush.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, as you say, something that you can't be bothered to go and get the ladder, but you can just reach it. so it's for that sort of thing that's just a little bit out of reach, but you can just get it with the radiator.
It's so funny, like most barns, Peter, here in the U.S., the biggest readily available extension ladders we have are 40-foot ladders. So I would put a 40-foot ladder up on that peak. And most barns feel like they're 45 to 47 feet. So I can go to the top of that ladder. I can get myself another 3, but these things were absolute lifesavers. I would have had to shimmy up on the roof of the barn and then lean over the edge and get those things for if I didn't have those. So I got a long history of those things.
And the other brush that's next to the 4-ring duster, the round brush, that's also really comes from the EU. It comes from Germany, France, Holland, Spain. And the really nice thing about those brushes is that they don't look it, but they're really good at painting straight lines.
Yes.
You wouldn't think so if you looked at it, though, would you?
No, but I have a couple old versions of these too, and I've always heard them called sash brushes, oval sash brushes, things like that. And the way that I've always seen them used is, yeah, they really do well with wood sash windows where you can really get in there and be detailed like this, and you don't have 2 or 3 more inches of brush hanging over to possibly do that. But like you said, these are sneaky tools for straight lines. Like you would think that this is just like a dauber or something, but when you actually load this up with paint and put it up against something like this, you have a super thick version of this brush. It can cut sometimes longer than some of the thinner brushes, and those lines are just beautiful when you do it.
If you twist it, as you paint. That's really what they do.
I love that. And so on your website, Peter, you call this Rechampier?
That's right. It's the French name for it. Yeah.
I love this sort of stuff. I've never heard that word out loud. I don't know how to say it. I just took a stab at it, but that's another name for these that I have never heard before, and I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I think my partner Gordon did a little panel group with members of the PCA and introduced that, and I think it went down really well, and we've sold really many more on that on the website than we thought we would sell. So I think
what's really sorry, Peter. I know what's really interesting is that there's a bunch of nerds, a bunch of paint nerds here in the United States with me, where if you actually look at our own kits like this, we carry these things around. We love this. We love now listen, we love the traditionalness of things like this. We're going to find a few less uses for this than for this. Like this is something we can actually use every day in our painting businesses, and we love that sort of old school version of this sort of thing. It kind of connects us to the past of our craft, makes us feel a little more connected to the craftsmanship side. So these aren't cool little things that just prop up in your office. These are like insanely useful tools.
I'd agree.
Wonderful. Okay. And again, obviously the duster, these things are amazing. I love that this still exists. And then basically we've already kind of dabbled in it a little bit, Peter, but making a paintbrush. Walk us through the process.
Well, I think as I alluded to before, the first step really is the filament. Extruding the filament, to different shapes, different diameters, depending on the use of the brush that you want to make. Once you've got the filament, the next stage along the way is to make the brush head. When we make a brush head, we make sure that we have that the weight is properly weighed in, because because you can't have a brush that's too tight or a brush that's too loose, then you'll have problems when you come to glue it. So it has to have the right amount of filament. So every knot of filament that we use is weighed individually, and then put into the ferrule. Then we put a wedge. We then put a wedge in to hold it tight, and then what you then do is then you pull it up on a shaper, so you get it coming out the other side. You can pull up, and then you get a little bevel shape from the pusher underneath. And the last bit of that is you comb it straight. So when the paint is coming down the brush head, it's coming down straight. And that's really that's making the head. After that, we take it to the gluing station, and the gluing is absolutely critical in this, because as I said before, if you overglue, you'll get glue running down the filament. You get stiff. You can't work the brush properly. And if you underglue, because the viscosity is wrong, you will have hairs falling out, because you won't be trapping all of the hairs in the glue. But once the gluing's done, it's set. It takes about 2 hours to set, and then you can leave it longer if you want to. It doesn't matter. And then we trim the brush head. We trim it to an arc, bevel shape, or a flat shape would be a block or a wall brush. And then after that, you assemble it, put the handle on. And there are various ways of doing this. We allude to this on the website about double locking and triple locking. Basically, a double lock is when you put the glue in at the beginning, you can see that there's these ribs in the ferrule, and what they do is they act as an anchor. So when you've made the brush head that direction, you then put the glue in. The glue goes to the second rib. That acts as an anchor. That's anchor number one. Then you can before the glue is set, you can put a screw into the handle inside that goes into the glue, and the glue sets around that, so that's anchor number two. And then you can nail it, and you've got three. And there's no way that head's over.
Peter, I legitimately thought that the ribs were decorative. I did not have an idea that they actually served a purpose. That is amazing.
They do. It's not a great anchor. You can't just have that on its own.
Yeah.
It does serve that purpose. And then when the brush head is finished, what we will do is we'll wrap it in paper like an envelope to shape it into that sort of curved shape, and then we will then steam that. And it will come out with a memory. So when you're using them, they will always come back to that sort of fine point, which means that you can do very, very detailed, accurate painting. So after you've done that, after you've assembled the brush, the last stage really is cleaning it out, and it goes through a machine, and you have these beaters, and it will take out anything that hasn't been stuck by the glue. If you've got some filament up there, it'll take it out, so that you can get rid of all the loose hairs. And then you also can then grind the ends of the filament so that you get like a sanded tip, which helps again with pointing. And that's basically it.
Yeah. And your handles, I think they're a combination of beech and birch. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
But really, really nice. I like the varieties, especially with like a Swift oval cutter. When I have a cutting brush, I do like to have a little longer. So when you're cutting something, this will actually get you another 6 or 8 inches like that. And certainly when I'm doing like enamel work, I do like a shorter, something that can actually help your fingers, because there's so much dexterity work like this. So I think you guys have got a great variety of even shapes and stuff like that too, which I'm a fan of.
Yeah, I mean the two basic types that we use are birch and beech. I mean, beech is slightly better. We use that in our Spirit range. Our Swift range we use birch. The main difference is that they're both hardwoods, so you can nail them and the head will stay on, unlike softwoods where they just come off of it. But the grain on a beech is tighter, so the handle will last longer. So it's also smoother in the hand. The grains.
Yeah. So when I went through the website, tons of fun stuff to look at. I'll kind of walk through a little bit of this, and then I do actually want to use a couple of these things. So I've been testing these. I've been experimenting with these over the last probably 4 or 5 weeks here, and I picked 2 of kind of the most interesting ones to me. And I'm going to actually do a demo. We got a Spirit oval here, which is amazing production brush. It's just like, I'll talk about it later, but I'm going to do a wall demo. I'm also going to use the woven cover, and then we're actually going to do an enamel demo. I'm going to enamel a cabinet door with my Spirit flat. So yeah, I'll kind of march through this stuff. Obviously, the big 6-inch, the copper ferrule, the wall brush. That was a really cool one. I'm very glad to see that still done here. The radiator brush, hockey stick brush, as sometimes we call it in America. The reshampier, as I know it now. I now have a fancy, pretentious word to call these oval brushes. The duster, and honestly, this one, I'm afraid to even use it for dusting. It's so beautiful, and it's such a cool thing that I'll probably have to get another one for dusting, and then just keep one around the office just to look at. These things are so cool, Peter. So hats off. We got a Swift as well. So this is all synthetic, I assume, from here on out, possibly except, is this still natural bristle, or is this a synthetic as well, Peter?
They're all synthetic.
Okay.
They're all synthetic, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So synthetic brushes, amazing arrays of sizes. I love that you offer, like the ovals versus the flats. I'll leave this one up because we're going to do enamel. Natural, synthetic, but mimics that natural bristle for oil enamels, solvent finishes, things like this. And I will say I still use a whole bunch of natural bristle brushes, and this one, you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference between the natural and your guy's synthetic. It really mimics like the stiffness and everything else. So hats off to you guys for this one. I was super impressed by this. I had to actually go to the website to see if this was natural or synthetic.
Thank you very much. I mean, we did. I mean, Nick, we did spend a lot of time trying to get black and white filament synthetic to look like natural bristle, because as I said at the beginning, it's harder and harder to get natural bristle that's of a good quality.
And you got, I mean, seriously, even the ratio, like you can see there's some darker hairs and some lighter hairs. Even like the ratio and the tint of these things mimics those natural bristles so much. Like this is not something I assume you guys just stumbled across. There's a lot of thought that goes into these. There's even,
I mean, we had a requirement. We were asked to do this, by our customers across the EU, because they wanted it to look like it, even though they couldn't get the same quality before. So we did it exactly like that. So we put a little bit of the opposite color in it, but also if the filament itself is waved, so you can see it's a very, very natural wave to it, which I think really helps with the pickup.
It is, absolutely. And yeah, even hats off. I'm seeing at least 4 different colors of filaments in the duster, even a nice kind of deeper orange in there as well too. Like seriously, man, that is a detail that you would not have to do, but people like me greatly appreciate. So that is a cool thing.
Very nice of you to say so.
Yeah, and again, we got different combinations of filaments, of sizes, of cuts, of handles, just beautiful. I am such a fan of ovals too, because it gives you, I mean, just the weight of these things are beautiful. It fits into your hand better. And of course, I'm a big fan of production as well. And these things hold a ton of paint, which I'm a big fan of. So
they have a nice balance to them.
They do, definitely. And what I like too, what you guys do is, I like brushes that are a little thicker too. Like there's you can always buy brushes that are, pretty thin, but for me, I like a big robust brush like that. I like to hold a lot of paint. I like to have the total surface area of when you actually put it down to cover a lot of room. If you take a brush with half the filaments and you lay it down like this, that's half the chances for those little flagged ends to get into those little pores and fill and things like that. So I'm such a big fan of like a thicker, more robust brush, because when you lay it down like that, you have twice the amount of, potential to cover all those pores and things. So you guys have some great, nice, robust, thick kind of profiles.
Thank you very much.
And what I was really interested too is when you read about all the different brushes on the website, it lists that most of them are good for oil and water together, which I was really interested, because that's not, again, I assume that's not something that just happens. There has to be some combination of, because oil and water are very much different, and there has to be different things happening in here to make it accommodating for both. So
yeah, I mean, you've got a mix of different profiles in the filament, and if you've got the right stiffness versus softness there, I think you can, certainly for the paints that we have, these synthetic mixtures work very well in both types of paint. In this country, it's basically people say the natural bristle won't work very well. The reason for that is because it's so absorbent, and it will just flop over.
Oh, sorry. We were talking about that right before the show, where years and years ago, I went deep into the, because you can grab brushes at your local store or whatever, but it got me thinking about this constant improvement thing. Let's find the next thing, find the best one, find something handcrafted, a different filament, and eventually, I found myself into the badger fur and everything else, and yeah, they're great. They're super soft, but they don't stand up even to some of the oils. And I was telling you, like they're I mean, they are so soft. They're almost makeup brushes. And
Yes.
they're wonderful for super, super thin things. But even when you use a really robust like oil varnish, which is still much thinner than paint, you would hold that brush up and the bristles would almost start bending under their own weight like that. And it doesn't make for a better finish. A softer, less stiff brush doesn't necessarily make for a better finish. You still need that stiffness to push that finish out evenly as you go, and at least in my experience.
I totally agree. I mean, as we said, we were having this conversation before the show about, some people are really, really into very, very soft brushes. But in my experience, and it is just in my experience, if you have stiff paints, you should have a stiffer filament to push it around. Otherwise, it falls behind as you're painting, And Badger is really mostly used for graining brushes or for actually shaving brushes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When you have the cup and you're mixing up the shaving stuff like that, that's a makeup brush or a shaving brush. That's what that is. And it's interesting. I think you can still find them nowadays labeled as fine finish, clear brushes and things like that. But yeah, very interesting that stuff still exists. So
if you want to paint a grain, a Badger brush, long, very long filament. Very thin, long filament brush will give you a good grain. It's very special. It's a very specialized brush.
Very much so. And you guys have roller covers as well, too. So you have the microfiber and you also have the woven, too. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but typically my use of these is a little better finish, a little more refined finish. This one's a little stiffer and will actually help with coverage a little bit, maybe on rougher surfaces, exterior things, masonry, things like that. Did I kind of peg that right, Peter?
That's right. I mean, the only thing I'd add to that is that the microfiber will pick up very, very well, but it's much better in thinner paints than thicker paints.
Yep. And to me, it's always been the trade-off between, there's kind of two types of roller covers, which is something that will give you probably a super fine finish, but tends to mat down under pressure a little bit, definitely doesn't shed. And then you have other a little more robust, like woven covers, where you might get a stray fiber here and there, but honestly, nowadays, you kind of really don't. That used to be a big problem in the old days, but they actually stay. They have their bounce, they have their loft that stays there under pressure when you're putting on thicker paints, when you're putting it over rough surfaces, which if you use a more delicate, more refined roller cover, sometimes they just mat down too much and it doesn't help with the thicker surfaces. So that's how we've always used them, the two versions. So
it's the polyester that's in the fabric that gives it that bend recovery. The polyester is inherently quite stiff. So I mean, you can get softer ones, but inherently it's stiff. And that's what brings it back. The polyester is used a lot in that reason. But also, I mean, these rollers are also very much acrylics in it. You also use the amount of splatter.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we measure fabrics by, again, similar to brushes. I mean, how they pick up and how they lint and how they splatter.
And interestingly enough, too, when you go on the website, I found a whole bunch of other goodies, too, which was you guys actually have a line of putty knives as well, too, kind of full pane, wood handles, super robust sort of putty knives, and then a more comfortable grip line, a little more flexibility. I know you guys offer some stiff ones, too, kind of, as we would call them, like, chisel knives, things like that. But, yeah, beautifully refined, kind of like, wonderfully tapered. They got a good flex to them. Again, just kind of like a brush where it's stiff enough where you can really move some mud or putty around, but enough flexibility in the end so you can kind of refine your patch like that. So I was really impressed by using these as well too.
Yeah, I mean, we categorize between filling knives and scrapers, basically. the two major categories, and then just the width of it. The wooden handle ones are very, very traditional UK style, and we put them on the website because we love them. I think they look nice, and they really last a long time. Nice.
No, and listen, I'm a fan of anything, obviously aesthetics is a big thing. If it's got a wood handle and stainless steel, I'm a fan, but also it feels like you guys really nailed like the robustness of this, like full tang as it says on the website. This one piece of metal goes through the entire thing and you can feel it. I mean, it is robust. It's almost like it's connected to your arm like this. And those are really substantial tools.
Yeah, it's one solid piece of metal all the way through. They will never break.
Yeah, I like those a lot. So again, fun to see like when you dig into the website. And I should mention on the website too, beautifully organized, beautifully simple. If I understand right, there's a video on how you guys make brushes on there as well. But also one of the things that I've almost never seen another manufacturer do is you guys have a pie chart broken out of what goes into making a brush, like what percentage of things in your business that go in there. And that was something I've never seen. And as a huge fan of job costing and, variable costs and fixed costs, listen, that was something that tickled me in a very interesting way, Peter. That was awesome.
we thought it'd be quite fun really to do that. I mean, it's quite interesting way of presenting things. So yeah.
Nice. Well, I want to paint something. So I think what we're going to do first is I'll use the enamel brush. We'll do a cabinet door here, and then we'll go brush and roller on the wall here too. So I'll just readjust here real quick, Peter, get my tools out of the way.
If it all goes well.
So for us nerdy craftspeople, obviously we want a brush to work well. We want it to look really good, but we also want it to be fun to use. And that's sort of the thing where, we spend so much time with brushes in our hand that we associate like almost feelings and emotions with brushes sometimes. And when I've been messing around with your offerings, I was particularly taken by, Spirit Flat soft finish. I really the softness of the end of this brush is unrivaled. It's just an amazing thing to use, but yet it's thick. It's got a nice thick profile, and it's stiff enough, which I like. And a lot of people, again, like we said before, there's a knee jerk where if you want a smoother finish, softer finish, you kind of have to almost find a wimpy brush, something that's just soft and delicate, and that is not the case. I feel like you guys have really nailed sort of a nice middle ground between robust, thick, can apply a lot of paint, but like the end of it is just so beautifully refined, and I've had a blast using it. So we're using some water-based enamel here, and this is a prepped and primed cabinet door. A little in there. I wanted a nice different colored enamel for contrast here. But the thing that I like a lot is how much paint this thing can hold. And normally with enamel or enamel brushes, you have a very thin profile, you have a very wimpy sort of bristle. But with these, I just love how much paint these things can hold.
Earlier, the brush specification that we use, our brushes are quite a bit thicker than your normal brushes, especially the flat, less so the angle side.
Yeah, I am just a huge fan, and for me, total contact area, especially with something like this. Enamels tend to be a little bit thinner, so you don't need a crazy robust brush. But at the same time, if the thicker profile of the brush like that, you have twice the total contact area to help fill pores. Like this is an oak cabinet door here, and you'd be surprised the difference between if you take a brush with half the profile like this, it takes twice as much effort to fill all those pores. And when the thing that I like most about this is it takes so little effort to fill the pores on oak because you have such a big contact area, and those, I won't use the terms properly, but the way the ends are flagged, the way the ends are treated, the coverage with enamel is just a wonderful, wonderful thing. So there's lots of good brushes out there, and you guys make lots of good brushes too. But this one particularly got me because it just feels like it's tailor made for enamel. And also, I'm usually a fan of a brush that's got a little, 2.5 is normally my go-to enamel brush. I know some people use something a little thinner, maybe a little thicker, but for me, when we're doing a piece of trim, a lot of baseboard, a lot of casing in the United States is somewhere between that 2, 2.25, 2.5, give or take. So you can actually cover quite a bit of it. And most cabinet doors, it just seems to work really well with the profiles and the common sort of shapes of rails and stiles and things that we use in the United States here. So yeah, it's just, again, we associate a certain amount of feeling and emotion to the brushes we use. And for me, like I just associated over the last bunch of weeks of messing with this, it's kind of like effortless. Like this is just like good. We're taking a hand that has a lot of muscle memory and we're putting a good tool in it. And it's just like this wonderful, wonderful combination like that. So yeah, hats off to this one, Peter. I'm a big fan, particularly of this one. So
it is interesting that in our sales, you mentioned 2.5 inch brush. Quite a big chunk of what we sell is 2.5. Whereas in our country, that's actually one of the least sales. We normally do 2 inch, mostly 2 inches the biggest seller. Whereas on the US side, we sell 2.5 inch and 3 inch on the ovals.
All right, now I'm gonna back this up. I'm gonna move this over here, and we're gonna do wall demo as well too here. Okay, we have our favorite wall paint. We'll load up our microfiber. Yeah, my impression of the entire line, like when I started dabbling with them, messing with them, again, this just could be my opinion, but everything is just a little thicker, a little bit more robust, there just seems to be a little more to it all. Even when you look at the roller covers, the putty knives, the brushes too, especially when you start looking at like Spirit Oval. This one jumped out at me immediately because this is a monster. This is robust. It's got that beautiful oval, which I'm a fan. It's got a handle that fits in your hand, but my gosh, the amount of paint that goes into this is absolutely amazing. Like, and you said balance is important too. Even when you have this thing loaded up, this thing feels like an extension of your hand. And the production, the length of something you can cut with this is just, it's a blast to use.
And that's the thing. I mean, time is money, and for a contractor, you don't want to spend time keep on going back and dipping in the paint. You want to put paint on the wall. So the load is clear.
Let's move this guy around here. We are in my test room here. You can see we have.
You're not going to paint over that beautiful blue wall, are you?
Oh man, listen, Peter. This is my shop manager. This is a to scale replica. Everybody knows this room. The last Ask a Painter was actually in this room. This is a 15 by 15 foot bedroom, exact scale replica of the most typical bedroom we have in the United States. And we actually test people in our apprenticeship program. They have to do this bedroom in 4 hours or less, start to finish, patching holes, prepping, top coat 1, top coat 2, taping, and all that other stuff. So this room probably has 1,100 coats of paint on it. And the room, you can almost feel it getting smaller. It's been painted so many times, but I love it because this is where we test everything. And I've been testing out this stuff as we go. And this teal, my shop manager and head trainer, Brandon, he gets sick of going gray and tan, so he picked out some teal paint. So it's fun.
I was going to say that the walls really are closing in.
They are like, that is not a proverbial thing here. Like, that is an absolute true statement. So, Peter, there's a lot of talk in the industry. Brushers seem to be divided along, slappers, guys that dip into a can and, will then give it one of these things here. I'm biased. I grew up as a dipper and a wiper. So I dip. I get about a 3/4 inch to an inch, and I wipe one side of the can like this, tip it up, and go to the wall. I don't know if you want to wade into the controversy. Do you have any deep thoughts on slappers versus wipers?
Well, slappers means something very specific in English.
Oh!
They won't go down that road.
No, it's cultural context, right? Yeah, so, I mean, the amount of paint that comes off of this thing at a metered rate is just amazing. And yeah, I am such a fan of the ovals too. They just feel great in your hand. And this is a super robust paintbrush. Like, this is a monster. This is a big production tool.
That is our biggest seller on the website.
Really?
The 3-inch oval.
Wow. Well, I can tell why. Like, this is just, you feel like you got a great combination of size of handle. And again, when you have a brush that can weigh a considerable amount at the end, having something robust for a bigger hand, a working person's hand to fit around is a great thing. The oval helps you hold on to it. The length, the stiffness. Yeah. I mean, I think you guys really got a great combination of all those attributes right here. It's just a beautiful, beautiful tool to work with.
I really like the oval shape. Really is a very nice shape. It's a very shape.
And the microfiber too. Again, this feels to me almost like the flat enamel brush that we were using, where effortless comes to mind. It seems like you guys have a good combination of stiffness, but also refinement of the fibers, where it just likes to fill in a little bit. Like, it just does, it feels like it does a little bit more work for you than a run-of-the-mill kind of, $2 roller cover that you find. So. Yeah, and this stuff, I mean, especially on a first dip on a roller like that, I mean, it really meters out the paint really well. I don't know if that makes sense to a lot of people who don't understand it, but there's a lot of roller covers that will leave kind of a whole bunch of paint right where you touch it, and then you kind of have to work around to smooth it out. But this feels like, if you can keep a nice even pressure, it just almost meters it out beautifully.
How much paint are you loading onto each time you do that?
So I'm a guy who puts on as much as I can to saturation with these things. So probably, on a roller tray like this, I like to kind of just kiss it into the paint like this, to the point where the roller cover is covered, and then kind of even it out. And then, so you have a little bit on the surface of the roller cover, but, definitely not one of these where it's kind of, dripping off like that. So I like to maximum as I can do it, less trips over the wall. So, yeah.
And what paint was that again?
Oh, this is our preferred wall paint is Sherwin-Williams Duration Matte. So again, it's really interesting. That paint is almost a great combination of like thick and robust, but it feels like you can just spread it nice and thin, where it's not this thick, sticky kind of wall paint like that. So weird combination. I think it jives really well with this stuff, where it is thick, it covers well, but with a refined tool, you can give that nice professional layer. And when you do lay it out nice and even, you get that beautiful shine, that matte glow to a wall that a professional will get, where maybe a DIYer won't get.
I'm actually really surprised by the coverage you got from that. It's amazing.
Peter, that's why, listen, we are not a company who just does things unintentionally. Like, literally over 29 years, I have tested everything. And our criteria is a little different sometimes than other people. Like, for the amount of paint we use, we got to find stuff that's readily available, super high grade, gets a proven result every time. We have an apprenticeship program, so we have to have something that's maybe even a little forgiving sometimes. And honestly, like if I had 2 more dips into that roller, typically what I would expect out of a roller cover is 3 9-inch lengths, top to bottom, on an 8-foot ceiling like that. And yeah, effortless like that. And that's awesome coverage with that. I mean, especially you can see like, you know, almost a creamy off-white over a teal, like a combination of tool and really high quality paint. That's it. I mean, if you gave me a 75-cent roller cover with premium paint like this, it would not look like this at all.
And how many coats would you need to do that? That looks like 2?
Yeah, we always do 2, Peter. It's just like for a professional, our minimum is 2. Like if we were going from a teal wall to almost a perfectly white wall, we would absolutely lay down a white primer first to kind of break the color, even out the surface, and then do 2 coats of white over the top. But yeah, we are one of those companies that truly believes in like, yes, we always do. A pro does 2 coats. Even if you can get it to cover perfectly in 1 coat, you build that even shine out over 2 coats.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to just go through a couple questions and answers, and then I will not take up any more of your time here. So, all right, we got a whole bunch of people saying good morning. Yeah, Iram Ramos says beautiful display of brushes. They absolutely love this stuff. Mark Poulos. Mark is another paint nerd like me. He was actually one of the people named Craftsman of the Year years ago, as well as me for the PCA. And yeah, Mark is a tried and true paint nerd, and I know he was probably clicking his heels over this stuff here. So, Mark Johnston, my fellow historic restoration friend here, came in late, but great show. With all the historic finishes I work on, quality and correct brushes are so important. I use Corona quite a bit, but we'll look into this. So Mark is, he's, I mean, if you think I'm nerdy about history and our craft and things like that, Mark literally makes wood windows with like the planes from the 1800s, and he finishes them with shellac and things like that. Like this is a tried and true nerd, and Mark and I go back and forth on this stuff. And I know when he saw like the duster, the wall brush, the rechampier, I mean, I'm sure he was just giddy about that stuff. So
that's quite awesome. I like his photograph as well.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Jesse Allen. Oh, Jesse, love Pioneer brushes. They started using them this year. They have everything I look for in a brush. And I believe Jesse is from your neck of the woods as well, too. So,
okay, great.
Jesse, used one first time on a double French, holds together perfectly, no splitting. Wonderful. Oh, that's good to hear.
Awesome. Thank you.
And Steve Addix, he's a fellow master crafts person, too. He's watching along. Brandon Lumby. Oh, perfect. Brandon Lumby, where can we find your brushes? If we want to get a hold of you, if we want to get a hold of some of these brushes, what do we do, Peter?
You go pioneerbrushstore.com is where we are. And you can email us through the site, and any questions we'd be very happy to answer.
So one of the Englishmen over at our neck of the woods now, Joe Finch, is actually watching. He came in late. And he said he thought he saw a duster brush. And Joe Finch, you did see a duster brush. I know Joe is a master crafts person like myself. He dabbles in traditional oil finishes. Englishman over here in Detroit. But yeah, Joe, you're going to love this stuff. So yeah, I think Joe, I would say, Peter, if you're ever open to talking to guys like me and Joe, boy, Joe, you would find a kindred spirit in Peter here. So.
We missed the expo you just had in Orlando, but we definitely want to come to the one next year if we can, you know, COVID willing and all that. But yes, for sure.
Oh, I love that. And one thing I should mention too, the PCA's got a whole bunch of events during the year, but the crowning event of the craftsperson's calendar is an actual craftsmanship get together, a craftsmanship forum where, you know, sometimes there's somewhere between 50 and 100 of seriously the most master of the masters there. And Peter, I'll send you some information on that. But boy, you would find, I mean, this conversation goes on for 3 days, and it goes way deeper when we get into different kind of hog hair bristle, and we get into all this other stuff. And it's just the nerds of the nerds, Peter. You would love it there. So
when is that? When is that?
I think that's going to be later in the fall. I think we're still trying to find a location and a date zeroed in, but it's all in the works. So yeah, the PCA's website will have it, and then certainly I'll pass along some information to you. So yeah,
that sounds great. That sounds like a good excuse to come over. Yeah.
Oh, and your spirit would be lifted by the people in that room. It's a whole bunch of nerds like us. So. Okay, everybody. I think that we're going to call her there. Thank you so much, Peter. Seriously, especially beaming in from England, taking the time to do this, working with me, teaching me about your company, your brushes. When I connect with somebody who has a deep love and knowledge of the history of what we do, that makes me so happy, because there are not that many people like you out there, Peter, and there's not that many companies like Pioneer out there. So for me and all of the other master crafts people here in the United States, seriously, thank you for your time today.
No, thank you, Nick. It's been really, really good fun. I've really enjoyed myself. It's been good.
Oh, that's wonderful. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. If you want more information on the PCA, there's a link here. If you want to track down Pioneer brushes or talk to Peter, I actually threw some links and a website in the show notes here. Outside of that, I thank everybody for watching. Kindest thing you can do is to like Ask a Painter Live and share it. And all right, everybody, have a good weekend. We're going on family time now.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend.